Hello, I'm Alex from Annie Best Recaps, and I'd love to tell you a story. The story begins in the year 2029, when a boy named Akira loses both his parents in a terrible car accident. With no other family, he finds himself completely alone in the world. However, a good friend of his father, a man named Kazuha, takes him in. There, Akira is welcomed with open arms, and Kazuha's daughter, Tawasa, promises to be the best big sister ever. 9 years later, the world is a different place. Artificial intelligence has spread to every corner of society, but not everyone is happy. Millions have lost their jobs to automation, and AI-related crimes are skyrocketing. The technology advances relentlessly, and many are demanding government intervention. Our protagonist, Akira, follows the news and watches with a mix of pride and admiration as his sister becomes more and more famous. Tawasa is considered a prodigy, the world's leading mind in android research. With multiple doctorates and patents, she runs a massive company and serves as a research consultant. Akira is in awe. Everywhere he looks, he sees the technology she helped create. His feelings, however, go beyond admiration. Over the years, Akira has fallen in love with her. One night, Tawasa's worst nightmare comes true. Several countries are calling for a complete halt to android research. The arguments over the pros and cons are endless, but public opinion has turned, and there's a high chance that her life's work will be shut down. Akira can't do much, but he decides the least he can do is keep her spirits up. He asks her to go to the zoo, and she's completely taken aback when she realizes he's asking her out on a date. Her smart wristwatch even advises her to confess her feelings, reminding her that they aren't blood-related. The next day, the two spend the day at the zoo, and this becomes the first of many more dates. One evening, Akira gives her a robot pet as a gift, revealing he's been studying non-stop to learn more about her research. Later, it's Tawasa's turn to give him a gift, a photo album so he can remember all the time they've spent together. She tells Akira how important he is to her, and the boy, unable to hold back any longer, confesses his love for her. To his luck, Tawasa feels the same way and says she would love to marry him. The AI that permeates their home played a big role in bringing them together, and the two think it. Tawasa finds it strange how people use AI for every little thing, but just as they're on the verge of creating artificial personalities indistinguishable from humans, they can't accept it. Days later, Tawasa attends a shareholder meeting for her company. There's a crowd of protesters outside, but inside, the room is filled with prominent world leaders. If she can win over the public with her presentation, it will be a giant step forward for the advancement of androids. She embraces Akira, and he wishes her good luck. The presentation begins. Tawasa's devices are implanted in the body, allowing users to utilize AI 24/7, connected to the network at all times, even in their sleep. Suddenly, a fanatic storms the stage, calling Tawasa a traitor to humanity. He fires a shot at her. Akira rushes to save her, but he's too late. Tawasa, though wounded, is more worried about him as the shooter is still armed. Akira realizes the danger, throws himself in front of her to protect her, and is shot several times in the back. He collapses, cursing his failure as his consciousness fades. Realizing his life is about to end, he uses his last breath to whisper a heartfelt apology to Tawasa. Moments later, Akira awakens to a sharp fall from inside a pod. He quickly realizes all his wounds are gone, but he has no idea where he is. A look outside only deepens his concern. The city is in utter ruins. The pain of a rock hitting his head makes it clear this isn't a dream. He notices he fell from some kind of medical capsule. Just then, a man arrives and refers to Akira as the Sage. He explains that an earthquake caused the ruins to collapse and that he came to check on the Sage. Akira understands nothing, but it doesn't matter as he passes out again. When he wakes up, the man introduces himself as Waya and his daughter is Edie. Waya explains that the Sage is a god revered by his village, a divine being who bestows knowledge upon his people and who had been sleeping in those ruins since long before Waya was born. A memory flashes in Akira's mind, and he wonders, is Tawasa okay? The other villagers explain that they don't know how long Akira was asleep.
As peasants, they don't have history access rights. They discuss how Akira is technically a relic and how risky it is not to report him to Owell. OWELL, they explain, is the unified institution that governs the world. Countries like Japan no longer exist. They are grateful to OWELL, as it was thanks to them that world peace was achieved and war was eliminated. One of the men, however, wants to report him. He argues that Wea is endangering everyone because if OWELL finds out, they will make an example of them. Wea's wife, tired of the bickering, declares they will not be reporting Akira. He just woke up in a new world and needs care. That night, Akira sheds a tear thinking of Tawasa while an ominous figure watches him from a distance. A while later, the villagers ask for Akira's help and are impressed when he manages to fix their broken tractor. The celebration, however, is cut short by the arrival of Commissioner Canis. The man who wanted to report him had done so. Canis informs Akira that he is being detained, as he is considered an archaeological artifact and, as such, has no civil liberties. Akira protests, but Canis angrily declares that OWELL's control over information supersedes everything. Wea tries to defend Akira, but Canis informs him that he is also under arrest for treason for failing to report the relic. Wea tries to defend himself, but Canis is ruthless and shoots him in the leg. The situation worsens as Canis reveals he will also be taking Uera as a witness. Her mother refuses, but she is powerless. The injured Wea tries to reason with the psychopath, but Canis has had enough and uses a taser on Wea's gunshot wound. Everyone cries out as Wea screams in agony, and Canis laughs like a lunatic. Canis takes the three away, and Akira blames himself for everything. On the train, the cold-blooded commissioner orders his men to leave the relic on the train and remove the other two to be disposed of. Akira is horrified, but it gets worse. Canis orders 3 of his men to return to the village and eliminate everyone who knows of the relic's existence. He plans to use Akira and his ancient knowledge to rise through the ranks of OWELL. Desperate, Akira thinks of a solution as Canis prepares to shoot the girl. Suddenly, a voice echoes in his mind. "Get down!" A blade of energy slices the train in half. A girl crashes through the wreckage to free Akira and springs into action. Her first target is Canis. She destroys him with a single blow, sending him flying into a barn. It all happens so fast that the soldiers can only stare in disbelief. The girl then turns to Akira and says she can rescue all of them easily. Canis, injured, orders his men to take her out, but she doesn't react even when surrounded. She refuses to do anything until Akira promises to hear what she has to say after the fight. With no other choice, he agrees. The soldiers fire a barrage of bullets, but she is prepared. A barrier of energy protects them and fires the bullets right back at the soldiers. She draws her sword again and begins to slice the soldiers to pieces in a lethal dance. One guard is about to shoot her from behind, but Akira, proving useful, hits him in the head with a steel rod. Just then, Canis reemerges with a machine gun, certain that not even she can defend against this. The girl is completely unfazed. She reveals a much better weapon. Planting herself on the ground, her arm transforms into a gigantic cannon. A single shot unleashes a devastating beam of energy that eviscerates the commissioner, the train, and the entire mountain behind them. It's obvious to Akira now, she is not human. She reveals she is an android and introduces herself as Yugure, reminding him of their deal. Akira freezes as Yugure reveals her face, a perfect mirror of Tawasa's. With a smile, she says, "Now let's get married."
As the scene unfolds, Akira asks if she is Tawasa, but she says no, her name is Yugure, and she has no idea who Tawasa is, which makes Akira wonder if there's something wrong with his brain. The android then shows a recording of when he agreed to hear her out, and explains that the favor she wants is for them to get married. Akira, of course, doesn't understand a thing. Yugure assumes she's being rejected and starts to intimidate our protagonist, even using the famous Kabadan, which, by the way, crumbles from the android's strength. Akira, thinking he's about to be put to sleep again, starts to stammer that he just needs some time to think. This calms her down, and she then shows him an engagement ring, the very ring he gave to Tawasa. Akira obviously recognizes it, which makes him realize that Yugure must know who Tawasa is. The android admits she might know her, but refuses to give a direct answer, saying the information is confidential. Besides, they don't have time to talk as they need to help the injured Wea. That night, the man who reported Akira apologizes, ready to accept any punishment. But Akira, knowing he was only trying to protect the village, accepts the apology. Even so, OL is now after him, and Akira decides he must leave. He says goodbye to everyone, but is surprised when Yugure joins him. She mentions she's still waiting for his answer, but Akira points out the insanity of marrying someone he just met. Yugure, however, doesn't give up, interpreting this as a sign that they just need to get to know each other better. So that's why she's coming with him. And Akira's first stop is the shrine where he woke up, hoping to find a clue. He asks Yugure to teach him about the current world. However, she mentions that this is also confidential. He then asks about her, why she wants to marry him, but that, according to her, is premium content. He even offers to pay, but Yugure only accepts payment in the form of marriage. Or as a last resort, she'll give him the information if you, watching this recap, help Alex out with a like and some hype, and also by subscribing. That way he'll know you want the continuation of the anime, and with that, she might be able to give some answers. The scene evolves and they finally arrive at the shrine, but it's too dark. Suddenly, Yugure senses something and pulls Akira aside, using an ability to hide their presence. She explains there are people nearby they must avoid at all costs. A strange woman then cuts her way into the shrine with her sword, while the other, named Hakubo, seems peaceful, but Yugure warns that they'll be in mortal danger if found by them. The girls are looking for someone, and Hakubo uses a kind of radar. This makes Akira realize they are androids, just like Yugure. However, he notices a curious similarity, as all of them somehow have a face identical to Tawasa's. Suddenly, the angry woman senses something, and with an attack, reveals that Iti, Wia's daughter, was hiding nearby. Akira silences him, explaining that they won't hurt her. After being questioned, E.T. confirms she knows that Canis was eliminated and admits to knowing who the culprit is. Miss Hothead demands to know who it was, but the girl bravely says she can't tell as the person who did it saved her life. Since she also doesn't know where they are, the girls decide it's another dead end and leave. Akira rushes to the girl and she reveals she followed them because she needed to return his watch, which she found in the ruins. Akira puts it on, hoping to find a clue, and sees there's a message from Tawasa. In the recording, Tawasa admits to having made many mistakes and that she must live with the knowledge of what she's done. They are sins that will haunt her forever, a burden she must carry alone. She expresses her undying love for Akira, but begs him not to look for her, no matter what. Her final message is for Akira to cherish the life and time he has. The message was from none other than 200 years ago. This forces Akira to accept the harsh reality that Tawasa is gone. But even so, he refuses to give up completely and declares he will still look for her, and his next stop will be the house where they used to live. Knowing things could get dangerous, he asks Yugure, whom he feels he can trust, to accompany him. Later, Yugure explains that Yoami and Hakubo are officers in the OL Special Forces and are after her. This makes Akira wonder if Yugure works for OL and why they all have the same face. But guess what, my dear friends, it's all confidential. At least he'd like to know why she wants to marry him, and her answer is simple: because I want to. Akira reminds her that his fiancée is Tawasa, but Yugure retorts that since they weren't married yet, she still has a chance. She then pins him to the ground, promising to make him forget Tawasa and fall madly in love with her. After a lot of pressure, Akira finally gets her to stop by calling her by her name for the first time, and this makes her hit the brakes and behave. The scene shifts, and the next day, while E.T. heads home, they prepare for their journey. They need to cross a river, but the ferry only runs once a week. Fortunately, a man named Oboro, who's heading to the same destination, offers them a ride. Oboro asks them what they're going to do in Honshu, and Yugure, without the slightest shame, tells him they're on their honeymoon. As soon as they arrive, Akira bumps into a girl and accidentally breaks her paintbrush. He promises to buy her a new one, and she introduces herself as Amor.
Akira pays for the brush with the money Wia gave him, but the clerk gives too much change. The shop owner is furious with the employee, especially since he had already been scammed and bought a fake Litojin. Hearing this, Yugure says they can keep the change and quickly gets them out of there. As the scene evolves, Akira wants to know what a Litojin is, and Yugure explains that they are people who have voluntarily renounced their human rights in exchange for being absolved of a crime or debt. In return, they are obliged to perform labor for OL.
Akira, hearing this, feels very uncomfortable, as this is very similar to slavery, even if the Litojan's basic needs, like food, clothing, and shelter, are guaranteed. He doesn't like the idea at all, and Yugure is surprised by his compassion. Akira remembers to give Amoru her new paintbrush. The girl, curious, asks where they're going, and Akira explains they need to cross a nearby mountain on their way to Tokyo. The girl reveals that OL has a checkpoint on the main road, but fortunately she knows an alternative route and leads them there. On the way, Amoru shows off her drawings and Akira is impressed. He can't help but see Tawasa in the picture, but Yugure points out that it's actually her in the drawing. Amoru reveals she always wanted to draw storybooks, and Akira is sure she can do it and hopes she'll let him read one of her books someday. Suddenly, something seems wrong, and she runs ahead. Yugure notices this and also spots a strange tattoo on the girl's back. That night, the group dines on roasted rabbit thanks to Yugure's hunting skills. Akira, curious, asks if the android eats food, and she reveals she has an infinite energy core, but eats as a hobby. Yugure then changes the subject and asks to see the book Amoru carries. The girl gets scared, but Yugure reassures her, revealing she knows it's a banned book, but that she won't steal it. The book is called Bird of the Heart, and it was written by Amoru's parents, who were storybook authors, which explains why she was so careful with the book. Akira mentions he admires the drawings and says he's sure she's talented enough to achieve her dreams. The next morning, they arrive at Mount Osere. OL soldiers guard the entrance, but Yugure, experienced in sneaking around, hides her face and gets in. They then enjoy the local food, but Akira can't ignore how the Litojans are being exploited in that area. Yugure advises him not to stick his nose where it doesn't belong. Akira acknowledges he has enough problems of his own and won't get into more trouble, but he can't help but feel bothered by it all, as none of it seems right. Yugure clarifies to him that a society's values and what is right change over time. However, before they can continue the conversation, they are approached by OL soldiers who mention they know the person behind the hood is Yugure, saying that if she doesn't cooperate, the relic will die. At that moment, a minimally eccentric human being appears, mentioning that this was an incredible service rendered to him, the magnificent Marlum. Akira, remembering Canis's eccentricity, just thinks he's feeling a sense of déjà vu. Marlum slowly approaches, explaining that he received a message from his second cousin Cani via carrier pigeon about the ancient relic and recognized Yugure's face. After all, she looks just like both Yoyami and Hakubo. However, at that moment, even the devil would tremble in fear, as we discover that Amoru was none other than a spy who ran to Marlum, whom she called 1221. Akira doesn't understand what's happening, but Marlum reveals that they were tricked by a Litojan. Amoru admits to lying, explaining that OL promised to return her parents' books if she brought them here, but obviously she couldn't have been more wrong, as Marlum is a terrible person. He mocks her for believing him, calling her a fool for thinking they wouldn't burn every last one of her books to ashes. He throws her to the ground, orders his men to take her and to give her the same treatment her parents had. He delights in the thought of the promotion he'll receive. Akira asks if Yugure can do something, but she says she can only guarantee his safety, not Amoru's, and that's not enough for Akira. Suddenly, Amoru charges at Marlum, yelling for them to run, and this distraction gives Yugure enough time to grab Akira and get out of there. Marlum takes his anger on Amoru and finds the book she was hiding. Safely away, Akira wants to go back to help Amoru, but Yugure reminds him that she lied to them. He doesn't care, as he feels guilty for encouraging her dream without understanding her situation. Back with Amoru, she begs for her book, but Marlum says he must follow the rules. He must burn the book. She screams in agony as she's forced to watch her parents' work go into flames.
With Akira, Yugure gives in and agrees to rescue Amoru, but only if he agrees to marry her. Akira can't believe that's all she ever thinks about and insults her, saying she really is just an android. Yugure is visibly hurt and lets him go, and Akira runs to help Amoru. And with this impulsive and heartbreaking decision, today's episode comes to an end. Akira has traded his safety and Yugure's loyalty to save the girl who betrayed him. Will he succeed, and how will he fix things with Yugure? If you want to find out, you know what to do. Smash that like and hype to show your support, comment your theories, and of course subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next part of this incredible journey.